And now, Blitz sings his emotional woes. I is intimacy that I crave. M is memories where I'm depraved. P is possibly a date with a Goetia. There's no letter for, so I won't sing this anymore.
Oh, Blitz. Blitz. Shave and haircut to Blitz. I did not expect to feel for you as much as I do now, man. Like, holy cow, can I give you a hug? I mean, don't get me wrong, when I got my first glimpse of Blitz in the pilot, I definitely liked him. He was funny and charming and all that, but I didn't expect the world from him or anything. I just thought he would mostly be your typical adult cartoon protagonist, and for the first few episodes, that's pretty much what he was. He was rude, obnoxious, very self-centered. He constantly pushed away people that cared about him. He committed terrible acts without pity or remorse. He swore more than a preteen in an FPS lobby. Oh, and he also spied on his employees in the middle of their most intimate moments. And look at his face, he's enjoying it way too much. What a creeper.
Taping demons, having sex, doo-dah, doo-dah.
But speaking as someone who's now 6 to 7 episodes into the series, I actually think that Blitz might be the best character that Vivzie and company have ever created. Not only because of Brandon Rogers' seamless ability to handle both silly and serious, not only because he's the most consistently funny character on the show, not only because he has this indescribable charm that comes with everything he does, but mainly because of the genius way that Vivzie adds sympathy and motivation to his actions and feeds the core themes of the show by slowly revealing his tragic past. As time has gone by, it's been made obvious that Blitz's life before Helluva Boss has been an all-you-can-eat buffet of pain. Like tears of sorrow in the salad, bitter regret in the ravioli level of pain. And Vivzie's been gradually feeding us teaspoons of this backstory as each episode is aired, leading to my impression of Blitz changing quite a bit. And while I've definitely had my fair share of thoughts about Blitz's past in my other videos, I've never made a theory video completely dedicated to him. But after witnessing the brain-melting madness that was Moxxie's bad trip, some part of my brain just knew it's go time.
So buckle up, ladies and gents,
as I attempt to roadmap Blitz's entire tragic past based on the landmarks of evidence that Vivzie has provided thus far. What domino chain of events made it so Blitz couldn't fathom proper intimacy but also craves it as well? Well, we're not going to get anywhere sitting around here, so let's go! Grab your peanuts and your P90s as we unmask our main clown's comedy to reveal the hidden tragedy. Let's see if we can predict Blitz's life of lovelessness.
Nobody loves me. Not one tiny hunk.
Let's start by discussing what we already know about Blitz, aside from his brony status and his bird fetish. Based on multiple bits of memorabilia scattered throughout his office, it's obvious that Blitz once worked in a circus for a living, where he used to perform an act with his sister, Barbie Wire, entitled The Amazing Imp Duo. Also, I know in the pilot it was hinted at that Blitz actually has 2 sisters, but there is evidence to show that this has been retconned in the actual series. I mean, this is obviously supposed to be the same poster we see in the pilot, just with Tiller removed and the name changed, right? It seems like it's in the exact same spot. Pretty damning evidence right there. In fact, for all future points that I make, if something seems to be debunked in the actual series, then I'm going to use the series continuity. And if not, I'm going to assume that all other parts of the pilot are canon until we're told otherwise by Vivzie in the future.
Everybody got that? Good!
So anyway, aside from the whole brother-sister act, it seems like Blitz's circus career had some other notable stops, such as his very own one-man show for one night only called The Incredible Blitzo, as well as him apparently striking out on his own, complete with something called The Blitzo Show. Though we can see a faded O on the sign, implying that the O is silent at this point, so this is probably something that happened at a much later time. At first I thought that these posters were meant to be mementos of a happier time to kind of keep Blitz happy and sane in his new workplace, but looking at them now, I'm starting to think that these are not happy memories, but more tragic footnotes of all the failings that Blitz has endured throughout his life. And he decorates the office with them as a constant reminder of how unloved he was and how unlovable he is now. And trust me, we're going to tackle all of these different acts and their relevance later on.
Feels, so many feels.
As for Blitz's relationship with his family, there's really not a lot available. We just know that Blitz's dad didn't approve of his theater dreams at all and was very vocal with his dismissals, so we can assume that they weren't exactly super close. His sister, though, we know next to nothing about. She could have been sweet, cruel, indifferent, no clue. I mean, when Verosika insults her in Spring Broken, Blitz does seem pretty mad, so maybe there's something there, I guess? I don't know, there's really nothing to go off of at the moment. However, one relationship with plenty to go off of is the ongoing rivalry between FPS Clown and Beetlejuice Jester. Yeah, it's obvious that Blitz and Fizz have a very rocky relationship and a very turbulent past. Just based on their conversations in Lululand, we're told that Blitz is clearly jealous of Fizz's fame and fortune and also hates his guts, while Fizz has no qualms with calling him a friendless, loveless, talentless loser right to his face. These two obviously despise each other, but the big question is, why? Why do these two have such malice towards one another? It couldn't have just been the fact that they were rivals in the entertainment industry, right? There must have been something much deeper that occurred between these two jokers. But what could it be? Well, I saw some people predict that Fizz and Blitz actually used to be stage partners who performed an act in the same circus together. You know, they started as a duo, one got more popular than the other, leading to one going solo and the other getting jealous. Heck, the past versions of themselves even have the same broken heart emblem on their foreheads, even though Blitz is a tattoo while Fizz is just some metal ornament. But still, I really like this idea, and it would totally explain why these two know each other. But there is one detail in Moxxie's trip that always stood out to me. When you see old Blitz and old Fizz side by side, you'll notice that Fizz is in black and white, while Blitz is still in color. Now this could just be a stylization choice, similar to how Stryker has a sepia-tone film grain filter on him during the trip, but when Vivzi is telling a story, I know she often has more reasons for putting something in other than just, it looks cool. A good example would be the various sinner and native demon designs that we see throughout Hell. In a vacuum, it's easy to say that these guys were designed this way just to look awesome, but in reality, the designs of each demon are actually a visual representation of their life history, symbolizing what they've done in their past and why they wound up here in the first place. Lyle's piano key teeth, Alistair's horns, Husker's poker print wings. Heck, I even heard rumor that this white blotch on the side of Blitz's face might actually be a scar that he got early in life, meaning that his features do way more than just make him stand out from other imps on the show. So with that said, what if this color difference is meant to imply that Fizz was in showbiz long before Blitz even started his dreams as a thespian? Because as we all know, TV and movies spent a long period in black and white before evolving to Technicolor. It's totally possible that Blitz was first inspired by Fizz to become an entertainer in the first place. Maybe he idolized him and strived to be as funny and loved as he was one day. I mean, can you just imagine little kid Blitz with his eyes glued to the black and white TV, watching Fizzarolli's show, memorizing every line and every joke? That would just be the cutest thing ever. As far as how they came to despise each other, again, I'll get to that later. But for now, I'm just gonna say that it likely all stems from that one night only show. That one fateful night where Blitz was alone in the spotlight ready to show his stuff is where all his hopes and dreams come crashing down in more ways than one.
It's incredibly important to the story arc of my character.
We also know that he once dated a girl that's hotter than a Victoria's Secret supernova, and that she broke up with him after he... hang on a sec. Ran off, leaving her to pay for the hotel room, stole her car, and ran 3 rings down to Rat and maxed her credit cards on awful horse riding lessons. Yeah, that's a pretty jerk move there, Blitzy boy. Once again, there's not too much to go off of since we only get small anecdotes and obvious friction between them nowadays, but I do get the vibe that their original relationship was way more than just a one-and-done deal. Blitz didn't go out with this girl just to take advantage of her. It seems like there might have been a genuine connection between them at some point. Heck, V actually got a tattoo on her arm of Blitz's name in a heart, complete with the O removed. You don't just get something like that on a whim. You get that when you're confident that it's meant to be. And when they broke up, instead of just getting it removed, she actually got an X tattooed right over it just to spite him. So yeah, it's possible that these two managed to have both a super sweet romance and an ugly as hell breakup during the time that they were together. And that, honestly, really intrigues me. Trust me, I love Stolitz as much as the next guy, and I love Eminem more than the next guy, but I genuinely want to see what the story behind these two is. Maybe not a full episode, but a montage or flashback at least. There's so much potential for an interesting love story here. And of course, the most obvious thing we already know, Blitz is hurting. And he's been hurting for a long time. Like I mentioned in my Truth Seekers review, this poor guy's past has left him with a permanently tainted perspective on love. This isn't just simple self-doubt or jealousy that stems from one or two things. This is a lengthy, lifelong list of love-related failures that has destroyed this guy's faith in ever finding true companionship. He doesn't deserve to love. He doesn't deserve to be loved. And anyone he's close to currently is eventually gonna leave, so there's no point in getting super close to them. And even though he knows deep down that life doesn't have to be this way and that he does deserve love, he just continues to repress these thoughts as much as possible. And the only time they're ever set free is when he has no control of his mind thanks to the truth gas. And I'm not exaggerating, go watch Moxxie's Bad Trip again. This kind of stuff is all over the context and subtext. But now that we've covered Blitz's character up to this point, it's time for the good stuff. Let's see if we can piece together Blitz's sad backstory using everything we already know. So gather round, my children, as I attempt to weave you the tale of Blitz's tragic past. Written by me, narrated by me, educatedly guessed by me, and soon to be proven wrong by Vivzie. Let's do it. Once upon a time, a young imp named Blitzo lived with his father and his sister. The family worked for the circus and was barely able to make ends meet. Blitzo and his sister Barbie performed together in their signature act, the Amazing Imp Duo, which was probably like a trapeze or tightrope act or something, because siblings in the circus usually do that. Plus, they wouldn't put amazing in the title if it wasn't some kind of impressive stunt, so yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Anyway, their father, who's basically their manager/trainer, constantly pushes his kids to train and practice and make their act as good as possible, in the hopes of one day making enough money to finally leave that dump and find a better place to live. He's basically a slave-driving jerk whose love is conditional, and he makes Blitzo's life in hell even more hell. Luckily though, Blitz was very close to his sister, and she did all she could to comfort him and even support him in his passions. Heck, when she found out about his secret dream of becoming a stage entertainer like his lifelong idol Fizzarolli, she was behind him all the way. They were partners in show and partners in crime. Yeah! Anyway, they performed their act night after night, and over time it became increasingly obvious that Barbie was the fan favorite. She got the most applause, the most reaction whenever she did her stunts, and even the father started to favor her more than Blitzo, just because of how popular and profitable she was. Yup, child favoritism. One of the biggest signs of a terrible parent, and one of the easiest ways to make young kids doubt themselves at an early age. Even the owner of the circus starts talking about outsourcing her to a different show, in order to make more money and get more street cred. Naturally, Blitzo is pretty jealous of her, but most of all he's worried that she's eventually gonna leave him alone, and then he'll have no one by his side. But his sister reassures him that no matter what they end up doing with her, she's never gonna abandon him. They'll always be close no matter what. Eventually, the day comes when Barbie gets signed over to a new show, and she ends up leaving both the circus and her brother behind. But she's very adamant about sending him letters to keep him updated, and he does the same to her. She keeps encouraging him to keep up with the entertainer dreams, keep practicing his jokes and his routines, and maybe he'll get picked up for a solo act of his own one day. But the father soon learns that Barbie isn't making as much money as he initially hoped, and Blitzo, encouraged by his sister, is spending more and more time on his silly clown dreams, instead of perfecting his own act, which is already less popular without Barbie. So the father decides to cut off Barbie's letters to home and then lie to Blitzo, telling him that they just stopped coming for whatever reason, forcing them to both focus on their work once again. And this leads Blitzo to think that his sister did forget about him after all. The first and only person he really grew close to doesn't even care to send him letters anymore. Guess he just doesn't matter enough to her after all. He doesn't matter to anyone. With no one to really encourage or comfort him, he gets more and more depressed and thinks about abandoning his entertainer dreams altogether. But then one day, as if by twist of fate, he gets exciting news. Fizzarolli himself is hosting a talent search. Bring your best jokes, your best smiles, your best material, and a few lucky rising stars will get a cash prize and a special entertainment deal from the jester himself. Blitzo immediately shows this to the circus owner and his dad and begs to be signed up. At first they both say no because the dad obviously thinks his dreams are stupid and the circus owner thinks it would be too risky to splurge on a brand new act, but Blitzo convinces them that it would be worth the risk. It would only be for one night, Fizz being in attendance is sure to bring people in, the cash and contract would be great for business, and if he doesn't succeed, he'll give up on the whole entertainer thing once and for all. So they both finally agree and start setting up promotional material. The incredible Blitzo, for one night only, family fun entertainment or whatever. Insert advertisement words here. And then before you know it, the night arrives. Blitz has his act all put together. He's been practicing for weeks. He gets on his clown outfit and even adorns his forehead with the mark of his idol. He'll finally get to be up close and personal with the crowd instead of just being on a tightrope all the time. His idol Fizz is waiting in the stands. This is his true moment to shine. Lucifer have mercy. This is his big night. And he bombs. Everything that Fizz said in Lululand happens on this night. The kids are scared of him. None of his jokes land. The night is a disaster, and everybody runs away in fear, leaving only Fizz and Blitzo alone. And Fizz actually applauds him. He congratulates Blitzo on being the absolute worst act he has ever seen, and that he alone made the talent search worth doing. Yup, it turns out that Fizz's little promotional deal was mostly done for his own sick enjoyment. He was obviously going to give cash and street cred to the good acts, but he was also hoping to get a kick out of seeing just how badly certain performers would fail, and Blitzo tops the list. I know we don't know much about Fizz's personality yet, but having him be this show's equivalent of Alistair, a big shot entertainer with $1 million smile who secretly thrives off the suffering of others, really sounds like it could work. So at this point, Blitz is completely crushed from all angles. His father doesn't love him, he thinks his sister abandoned him, his idol thinks he's the worst thing ever, his audience is terrified of him, a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch that completely wrecks his emotions and self-esteem. This is pretty much the final straw for him, so he packs up his things and runs away from this horrible place, dropping all connections to his family and his old job, and also dropping the O from his name completely. From this day onward, he is starting a brand new life as Blitz and never looking back. But little did he know, things would only get worse for him. So Blitz gets the hell out of his personal hell and immediately starts looking for work. He doesn't have much on his resume since he cut all ties with his old circus, but he eventually sees that a certain rip-off amusement park is looking for clown balloon vendors. And he figures, why not? Everyone's gotta start somewhere, and at least nobody will recognize him so he can get a fresh start. But uh-oh, tiny oversight, his new workplace happens to be run by Mammon, the same guy who owns the rights to Fizzarolli. And the star performer at this theme park is a robot clone of Blitz's ex-idol, programmed with all his memories and personality traits, including Blitz's biggest blunder. So day after day, Blitz gets to watch his prideful sadistic jerk soak up all the attention, while reminding him of what a failure he is and was. Fan-tibbity-tastic. But luckily, there is one good thing to come out of this miserable job, and that's a new friend. A fellow wannabe entertainer who's also down on her luck, named Verosika Mayday. They both took the same job and eventually met up in between shifts. They start talking regularly about their big dreams, form a friendship, and eventually a full-on romance. Heck, it gets to the point where Verosika is pretty much certain that he's the one. I mean, you know it's meant to be if you're still deep in love, even when you both have nothing. A bond like that can pretty much weather any storm. But that bond is eventually tested when Verosika's career as a singer actually starts to take off. She gets some good paying gigs and a couple major contacts. Things are looking pretty good. Meanwhile, Blitz is getting nowhere with his career and is still stuck in his dead-end Lulu job. Obviously, Verosika doesn't want her sweetie pie to work at that terrible place anymore, so she sets him up for a gig as her personal bodyguard. They'd be able to spend much more time together, and it'll pay much better than shelling out balloons for a living. Blitz takes the job, and through his work as a hired gun, he actually starts to get proficiency for weaponry, which he furthers in his off time. But even with this new job protecting his girlfriend from creeps, he still gets nowhere with his dreams, while Verosika just gets more and more popular. So Verosika decides to use her newfound influence to help her honey pie out. She contacts a couple of big-name people that she knows to help get Blitz his very own stage where he can perform all his best material, and hopefully get some much-needed attention. His very own comedy program, and they'll call it The Blitz Show. The O is silent. The first one, not the second one. At first, Blitz is kind of apprehensive, but he can't turn down such a sweet offer, so he accepts. He prepares some brand new material, stands in front of a live studio audience, gets himself ready to go, and he bombs again. This time it's even worse though, because once the boos start flying, he pretty much pulls a Joker and goes completely unhinged on live TV. He starts cursing people out in the audience. He screams about the people who screwed him over in life, like his dad and his sister, and he eventually even starts killing people. Yeah, he actually starts slaughtering audience members just to finally shut them up. I imagine that this is what started his sadistic lust for killing. Like, it feels good to be in control of something for once, instead of just letting life screw him over every time. Obviously, the show doesn't go over well with everyone, and it doesn't go beyond one episode. He doesn't go to jail or anything, because people dying on live TV is like a typical Tuesday night in hell. Instead, I'm gonna say it gets cancelled because of low ratings or something. He's obviously mad that he blew it again, and while Verosika does her best to comfort him, he's having none of it. He's convinced that he's going to be stuck where he is forever, while Verosika becomes the biggest singer in hell and ends up leaving him by the wayside. But she reassures him that she will never forget about him. He means the absolute world to her, and she'd sooner quit her career than ever leave him behind. And that actually makes him feel good for a little bit. But wait a second, doesn't that sound familiar? Oh yeah, that's the exact same thing his sister promised long ago, and she had no problem leaving him behind. Yeah, Blitz immediately starts to convince himself that this is just gonna be a pattern at this point. No matter how much they deny it, everyone he loves is eventually gonna leave him. It's only a matter of time, and he refuses to be made a chump out of more than once. This relationship isn't gonna be a slow burn like the last one. This time, he's going out in a blaze of glory. So one night after they both fall asleep in a hotel, Blitz grabs Verosika's credit cards, sneaks out, goes for a joyride in her fancy car, and spends all the cash he can in the Wrath Ring, riding horses and feeling free, like an untamed stallion with a Mustang dong, or however that song goes. Obviously this ends their relationship with a very ugly breakup, but he was sure it was gonna end eventually anyway, so he might as well go out in style. So Blitz is spouseless and jobless again, but at least this time he came out of it with a good grip on guns and a newly found lust for killing. And I'm pretty sure you know everything that happens next. He starts up his own killing business, he hires some employees, and he adopts his own hellhound daughter, who he has no problem growing attached to because by law she can't leave his side. Hooray for paperwork! He's more than happy to ruin a family for obvious reasons. He has a run-in with an old friend whom he crushes into scrap metal. His ex manages to get a little petty revenge on him. His tail sock puppet gets taken away by the breeze. So yes, even his freaking socks end up leaving him eventually. He thinks he might actually get some respect in his line of work when a certain cowboy imp warms up to him. But nope, those compliments were just a ploy to lower his defenses so his birdie boyfriend would be easy pickings. So even in his current line of work, he still gets no love. Wonderful. And of course, most recently, the dorks come on by, they gas the poor guy, force him to cry, his repressed thoughts fly, they make everyone die, and he leaves the remaining two high and dry, which finally brings us to present day. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how obsessive Helluva Boss fans spend their time. I don't know about you guys, but I am really interested in the idea of Blitz feeling worthless throughout his life, and constantly thinking that he's just not good enough. Not good enough for his father to love him or believe in him. Not good enough for his sister to stay in contact with him. Not good enough for his idol to respect him. Not good enough to gain a loving audience either as a solo or a duo. Not good enough for his girlfriend to spend much time with him. Not good enough for someone in the same line of work to truly admire him. And ultimately not good enough to be a part of any current or future friendships or partnerships. I have no idea if anything I said today is actually gonna happen. In fact, come back here in about a month, it'll probably all be wrong. But one thing I'm sure about is that as of episode 6, things are finally starting to look good for Blitz. He's more open about his feelings, he's connecting more with his employees, and with episode 7 finally bringing us to the lust ring like we've all been hoping, it's possible that he'll also get a chance to confront Verosika and Fizz once again. He can finally explain his motives to V and finally apologize to her, and then they can end up as friends, or at least acquaintances instead of arch enemies. As for Fizz, he can tell them that, yeah, he did fail that night, and a bunch of nights after, but he's completely comfortable where he is right now. He's got friends and a daughter and a business, so ha! Enjoy being cold and alone at the top, Mr. Jester, cause I'll tell you something, it's much warmer and safer down here at the bottom. Mic drop, and walk away. I don't know, I know this video was really lengthy, but I just had a lot to say. I absolutely love Blitz's character, and I feel like when they finally reveal his full backstory, it'll be something really special. From what I've seen of Blitz, he perfectly encapsulates the main theme of Helluva Boss and the Has Been franchise as a whole, learning to move on from one's past. Doing this can be hard enough for people like us, but when you're in hell, where your very anatomy is painted with the sins of your past, and the culture encourages you to just drink, smoke, loot, and kill instead of trying to solve the problem, it can be borderline impossible. But as we've seen in both Has-Been and Helluva, it's possible for anyone to turn their lives around, no matter how far gone they think they are, or how far gone other people tell them they are. Your past does not define you. And even when you're surrounded by evidence and voices and experiences that constantly tell you otherwise, it's still possible to move past those things and become a better, more happier person. Especially if you're willing to accept the help from friends and resources that you have at your disposal. And with Blitz finally starting to do that, I'm just gonna hope and pray that this sad clown can finally wash off the old face paint and put on a real smile.